Well, he's not apologizing, and no, he won't be changing his ways on how he responds to controversy. And today he is knocking the mainstream media for twisting his words and using it against him. In moments, former Speaker Newt Gingrich is here. But first, Donald Trump on the record and responding to the outcry over his comments that Second Amendment people need to stop Secretary Hillary Clinton from winning the White House and appointing Supreme Court justices. You're getting a little heat over this Second Amendment comment that you made. And, in fact, Senator Elizabeth Warren, who is a supporter of Secretary Clinton, tweeted, "Real Donald Trump," that's your Twitter handle, "makes death threats because he's a pathetic coward who can't handle the fact that he's losing to a girl." Your response to that?
Well, look, you know what I think of her. She's not much, believe me, not much. And a lot of other people know she's been a totally ineffective senator. Everyone knows it. I will say this. What I said was absolutely, everybody was there. They heard it. They thought it was fine. Rudy Giuliani actually was there. He defended it this morning and said it was absolutely fine. What we're talking about is political power. There's tremendous political power to save the Second Amendment. Tremendous. And you look at, the power they have in terms of votes. And that's what I was referring to. Obviously, that's what I was referring to. And everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. And so I have to tell you, the NRA came out.
It wasn't a bad joke.
The NRA came out.
Yeah, I mean, let me just ask you. Speaker Ryan thought it was just a bad joke. What you're saying is that this was an intentional statement about the power of the Second Amendment advocates. Is that what you're saying?
No, Speaker Ryan didn't see it because I think they just asked him about it. He didn't know about it, and they just said, well, maybe, look, this is showing the power that people have for the Second Amendment. There's a lot of power for the Second Amendment. They want to be able to keep their guns. They don't want them taken away. Hillary Clinton wants to have the guns taken away. You look at what her agenda is, and if she starts appointing judges and other things that she wants to do, she's very much against guns. And I'm a very pro-Second Amendment person, and there are a lot of people that agree with me. And frankly, if you look at all of the comments this morning, I mean, the comments have been tremendous on that statement, and it's really awoken people having to do with the Second Amendment and the voting power they have as a bloc. It's tremendous. The NRA came out with some very positive statements last night and this morning. People want the Second Amendment protected. It's very important, and they have a lot of power in doing it, voting power.
Now, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, is here to go on the record. Nice to see you, Mr. Speaker.
Good to be with you.
And, of course, he pivoted to the NRA issue in the Second Amendment. But what he's getting heat for is the comment that he made about the Second Amendment and Secretary Clinton. Your thoughts?
I think this is such garbage, it's unbelievable. And, of course, what happens is a reporter runs up to Paul Ryan, gives him the reporter's version, and given him the reporter's version, Ryan then responds. Every Republican should learn this will be the most decisively one-sided news coverage in American history, and that you would assume every day that people are going to take Trump on and are going to try to distort what he said. I saw what he said. I read what he said. I thought the coverage the first couple hours was an absurdity, and then they, of course, spent the last 24 hours on it. By the way, if you look at what Strickland said, which is clear on tape, and which he said to a huge audience about being happy that Scalia died, it is pretty bizarre by comparison.
Well, as you might imagine, the Democrats, many of them are scandalizing, giving him a lot of heat. And to be fair and balanced, here's what happened in 2008 when Secretary Clinton was running against then-Senator Obama for the nomination, and this is what she said.
My husband did not wrap up the nomination in 1992 until he won the California primary somewhere in the middle of June, right? We all remember Bobby Kennedy was assassinated in June in California.
Ouch. She got a lot of heat then because the implication was that she should stay in the race in case then-Senator Obama were assassinated.
Well, again, I think I suspect she was in a stream of consciousness memory. I don't think she was suggesting that Barack Obama was going to get assassinated.
But we all jump on it.
Of course. Look, the news media is always going to jump. This is a year when they're going to jump 80 or 90% of the time on Donald Trump and 5 or 10% of the time on Hillary Clinton. And we just have to understand that's the business we're going to be in for the next 90 days.
All right, well, let's bring in then-Senator, now President Obama. Today, John Cass, who is a columnist with the Chicago Tribune, tweeted this. Obama also joked about rubbing out his opponents the Chicago way. If they bring a knife to the fight, we bring a gun. Obama, Philly, 2008. So they all say it. They all do it.
They all do it. By the way, as long as we're going to talk about Chicago for 1 second, 9 people were killed in Chicago on Monday. This president has had over 3,400 people killed in his hometown since he was sworn in, more than we've lost in Iraq and Afghanistan in the same period. Nobody does anything. Nobody talks about it. It's Hillary Clinton's birthplace. She was born in Chicago. Nobody goes and says, we have got to find a fundamental change. This is about real killings, not about rhetorical language.
And of course, there's the story that we reported on yesterday, where there are gang snipers apparently wanting to kill a cop in Chicago.
Yep.
Anyway, Mr. Speaker, do not go away, because we have more with you right now. Everything that you haven't seen in our interview with Donald Trump, here it is.
We're talking about coal mining, and we're talking about the miners being put out of business, and totally put out of business. And as you saw, Hillary wants to put them out of business, wants to put the mines out of business, wants to put a lot of things out of business, and we're not going to let it happen. So we have a lot of mining equipment behind us and around us, and we have a lot of equipment that's not being used because the mines are in very bad shape.
I know the criticism of Secretary Clinton about mining, it erupted, I think, in March, but back in November she did put forward an energy program that I think, I think perhaps more people might have thought it was not so anti-miner. She did have a program. I'm curious for you, do you have any sort of concerns about the environmental impact of mining, and do you have any concerns about the danger to the miners who work down below in these mining in these mines?
Well, the miners want to work, and they want to do it. That's what they love. In fact, I've asked them, you know, in West Virginia, where we had such a tremendous turnout and tremendous returns, I spoke with the miners. That's what they love to do. And the safety now is really, you know, they've really brought it to a new level. So it's really wonderful from that standpoint. But that's what they want to do. They want to be miners. And Clinton said not so long ago, as you know, a few months ago, she wants to put the miners and she wants to put the mines out of business. And it's ridiculous. Then she tried to retract it, but it was a little bit late. And if you remember, she was sitting around a table with a beautiful mining family, a man who's a miner. And she was not very successful, and she certainly was not very successful in West Virginia, that I can tell you. No, she is looking to put them out of business. There's no question about it.
Well, I know the miners are very unhappy with it, but just on a sort of broader perspective, in a Trump presidency, would you be focusing on other alternative forms of energy as well? I'm wondering sort of what your short program is on this.
All forms, yeah, all forms of energy. I want everything. I mean, frankly, you know, clean coal is really a new thing that really does work. And you look at China, what they're doing with coal. They're using coal, and I doubt they're cleaning it. In fact, they're not cleaning it. But they have technology now that's wonderful. We're just not being able to use it. We are having a tremendous hard time with the environmental protection agencies and all. Federal government is putting a lot of different kinds of industries out of business. But in particular, when you get to energy and the coal and even natural gas is having tremendous problems, we could be energy independent within a very short period of time, but they won't let that happen.
All right, George P. Bush, the son of Governor Jeb Bush, has endorsed you, and that's sort of, you know, that's a member of the Bush family. But at the same time, Maine Republican Senator Susan Collins, she says she's not going to vote for you. So tell me your thoughts about you're getting some Republicans inside the tent, but some Republicans are leaving the tent.
Well, I'm very honored by George P. Bush. I thought that was really terrific. I saw it. And I watched his statement. I thought it was really terrific. I don't know Susan Collins at all. I know nothing. You know, I don't know anything about her. But she came out. But, you know, people don't talk about all the people that are supporting me. We have tremendous support in Congress. We have tremendous support in the Senate. Jeff Sessions as an example. I mean, we have tremendous support in the Senate. And, frankly, you look at the polls, the way they're tightening up, people are starting to get it. And then you look at what's going on with Hillary, with selling government and, you know, all of the things that have come out today on the front page of a lot of the papers. And you look at what she's doing in terms of pay for play and play for pay and all of the different things, and they name it different, you know, all of the different things she's doing. I'm telling you, it's starting to come out. And look at the way the polls are tightening up, and they're tightening up very fast. And I think a place like Virginia, where I am now, or a place like, as an example, Pennsylvania, I think Pennsylvania is going to be very strong for us. Now, she's spending tremendous numbers of dollars, I mean, tremendous amounts of money on ads. In fact, I just got here, and they say ads are all over the place, and I haven't done that yet. We will be doing it, but I I haven't done it yet. We've been very successful in raising money from small donors. We're getting $61 a shot. Last month we raised $82 million. We haven't done it yet, but I will say this. I think we're doing very well, and we have a long way to go.
All right, let me turn to the debates, and they're just being set up. I mean, they're being arranged. I happen to like the sort of the concept of the Lincoln-Douglas debates where there's no moderator, but that's just me. I'm curious, do you have any sort of thoughts on how it can be, the debates can be more effectively done for the American voter? How would you like to see them done?
Well, I'd just like to see a fair moderator. That's all I'm looking for, because, we have a lot of very unfair people treating us as Republican and as conservatives. If you're a Republican and a conservative, you get very unfair treatment. Look at what the New York Times said the other day. They practically admitted it. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. They practically admitted it. But you look at the unfair treatment by the media, it's incredible. But the good news is people understand that. People know it's unfair, and I think that maybe will reverberate, and we'll see what happens. But no, I want to do the debates. I did very well in the other debates, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here. And I think we're going to have very good debates. I do think this. I don't think they should put them opposite NFL games, because I think that's really unfair to do that. And, I probably Hillary Clinton would like that, but I don't think they should be opposite NFL games. And I want to see a fair moderator, and whatever else we'll look at. But certainly I want to do the debates.
All right. What about the format, and what about selecting the moderators? Are you going to? What's sort of the impact? What are your sort of thoughts on that? Are you dealing with the debate commission now? Are you having any part of this?
We've just started. In fact, I think Rudy Giuliani will be working with them, and Paul and a couple of my people. But Rudy will be very much involved in terms of that. I just think we should have them similar maybe to what we did with the Republican debates, except there'll be two people instead of ultimately there were 17. I guess in the end we had, 17 people we started. We actually had 2 stages, so we don't have to worry about that. But I think that debates between the two of us would be very good. I think it would be very interesting. I think it's going to be very revealing for the public, and I look forward to it. But I would think something like what we had with the Republican debates, or what they had with the Democrat debates. I thought that those debates, they had Hillary and they had Bernie, and they were standing up, talking, and I think that's probably about as good as you're going to do. You want to have a fair moderator, that's all.
All right. You mentioned the swing state polls, and I looked at the Quinnipiac polls. It's close in Florida and Ohio, which, of course, is very important to the Republican ticket. Pennsylvania, not so much. The one I saw was I think about a 10-point difference. But do you have a ground game? Have you already gotten started on that? What are the plans there?
We do, and I think we're going to do very well in Pennsylvania. I was a little surprised to see a 10-point gap. In Ohio, we're doing well. In Florida, we're doing well. But we haven't really started yet. We haven't started any ads. She's spending a fortune on ads. I mean, I literally came to Virginia, and I've had 5 people say, all you see on here is ads. And the ads are false ads, by the way. They're ads that are just absolutely, in many cases, many of the things they say are absolutely false. Not 100%, but much of it. And I will say that I think that's disgraceful. And they know it's false. They know it's false. They're putting on ads where they know some of the things that they're saying are wrong, but they put them on anyway. But we haven't started that process yet, and we will be starting it pretty soon. I think Pennsylvania, with the mines, with the coal miners, with the steel workers, and with how poorly those elements of business are doing, and I think we're going to do very well in Pennsylvania. So I was a little surprised. Now, Pennsylvania hasn't been won by the Republicans for quite a while, but I think we're going to win Pennsylvania. I think we're going to win Pennsylvania easily. Hillary, again, you have a lot of miners in Pennsylvania. You have a lot of steel workers in Pennsylvania. Look at what's happened to steel production in Pennsylvania. Look at what's happened with the mines of Pennsylvania. They're really becoming non-existent. So, and she's totally against them. So I think we're going to do very well in Pennsylvania and all over the state, not just with the 2 industries I talked about.
All right, you've never run for office before. This is the first race you've ever run. What has surprised you the most to date about the process?
How smart the people of this country are, because they're reading false narratives, they're reading false newspaper articles and seeing false things on television, and I mean really biased reporting. And they don't, and here I am. I'm sitting here in a very close race, what will be and what already is shaping up to be a very close race. So the people are so smart. They get it. They really get it. And they're seeing it more and more. And I think they're going to get I think they're going to get a great lesson. And it's not a fair situation. It's a rigged situation. In a certain way, it's rigged by the media, if you think about it. Now, the other day in North Carolina, I was there yesterday, and we had amazing crowds in North Carolina, as you probably noticed. But we were talking about voter ID. Voter ID seems to be eliminated in North Carolina. I think that's, very unfortunate. Voter ID. Does that mean that anybody can just go and walk in and vote? That's very unfair. That's very unfair. So we'll be working on that situation with the governor of North Carolina, who is, I think, going to be asking for a stay. But when you see that you don't need identification to go in and vote, or proper identification to go in and vote, a lot of states, fortunately, have been upholding it. But in the case of North Carolina, they didn't. So that's a problem. But look, when I look at the media, how one-sided it is, how biased it is, it's incredible. I mean, it's incredible.
Donald, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope Secretary Clinton joins us as well. We've have invitation. Ohio Governor Ted Strickland is now running for the U.S. Senate in Ohio, and now an audio recording capturing Strickland making a joke about the death of late Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia.
My friends, a lot of average citizens out there don't understand the importance of that court. I mean, the death of Scalia saved labor from a terrible decision. And I don't wish anyone ill, but it happened at a good time.
Speaker Gingrich is back, and I should add that since then Strickland has said there was an insensitive remark, and I apologize.
Well, that was nice of him. But he said it to an entire labor audience, and you could hear people laughing about Scalia's death. And it's just unfortunate. I mean, it's, again, how partisan we've become, how polarized we've become. That Strickland could even think of that.
Well, I went into his Twitter account, and this was what troubled me, is that in reference to the Trump comment about the Second Amendment, this is what he tweeted. This is Ted. This is beyond any decency. Trump just suggested someone should shoot Hillary Clinton. Absolutely disgusting. So he finds that absolutely disgusting, but he finds laughing at the death of someone else as
this
funny.
This is also a good illustration. There is nothing in what Donald Trump said that suggests shooting Hillary Clinton. What he just said, and you've seen Democrats all over the country do this, they take a Trump statement, then they leap out to here, then they condemn this thing out here, which was not in Trump's statement.
Well, this is what Secretary Clinton said in part today. She said, let me say something that I think is critical difference between my opponent and myself. Words matter, my friends. So I'm interested to see what she says about the words of the Senate candidate Strickland in a key swing state that could shift the power in the Senate.
You were very good at keeping people calm and reasonable on this show, so I'm going to try to respond in a calm and reasonable way. For a candidate who is a liar, who lies about lying, who as recently as this morning had emails revealed indicating that they were selling the Secretary of State's offices in order to raise money, for her to say words matter is bizarre. I mean, she's done nothing all year except lie. How could she possibly think words matter if she doesn't use any words that are honest?
Can I just say one thing? Everybody hates lawyers, but lawyers, I mean, we don't hold a candle to this kind of stuff. Where everyone is saying the worst. We're saying things about each other both ways. It's like, and everybody, and they always get caught. All the politicians get caught because we have cameras, we have tweets, we got everything.
Right, that's crazy.
Anyway, Mr. Speaker, thank you. And brand new promise for Secretary Hillary Clinton, and yes, you guessed right, it has to. Tracy, back in 2008, we played the soundbite. Secretary of State, then Senator Hillary Clinton, made a statement about RFK and assassination in reference to perhaps suggesting that maybe then Senator Obama would get shot. And we jumped out. We hammered her unmerciful in the media. Now to this Donald Trump soundbite. Is John Voight right that we're making too much out of this?
His supporters, it's not going to affect them at all. They're going to stick with him, and they don't think that he's inciting violence. I think the biggest damage is that it draws attention away from Hillary Clinton and her many shortcomings. Look, she should be having a bad week, too, with all this release of her emails, and that should be what Donald Trump should be focusing on, not recovering from this.
Chris?
Yeah, this is one of those things where I would say 2 points. Number one, it's probably a good thing that their campaign's message coming out of this has been uniform. If you remember the Khan family controversy deal that carried on for 96 hours, in the wake of this now, Trump and his campaign surrogates have all been on the same page. The NRA's out, dropping $3 million for him, so that's been a good thing for his campaign. Number two, he's the king of ambiguity with some of these statements. We've heard him say in the past that he wants to hit back hard at Michael Bloomberg. Is he being serious? Is he talking about rhetorically hitting back? So that's a lot of this stuff that we see on the campaign trail.
There's so many important issues, and I'm guilty of this too. I mean, I asked him about this stuff too. But I mean, even like he's in Virginia and West Virginia tonight, and actually Florida as well tonight. He's all over. But there are things like energy, coal. I mean, the whole issue is, what should we do about coal miners? What about the environment? What about alternative energy? I mean, we never really, in the media, we don't get to those things. We're too busy saying some of the weird stuff.
Or we're covering the weird stuff that he's saying. He's distracting from his own message. Just a day ago, he was giving a really great economic plan and getting his campaign back on course. And now we're talking about what he meant with the Second Amendment. Yeah. And
that's one of these things that's the modern media cycle. I mean, it's like you say, we're all guilty of it to a certain extent. What drives web traffic? What are the things that get the attention of people's eyes? And sometimes it's this outrageous stuff on the campaign trail to which we've become accustomed. And you see people across the country, the ones even driving Donald Trump's campaign, they're disaffected because they're angry about the economy. They're frustrated about wages, and these are the things that we don't get to.
Well, the debates are coming up soon. And we don't know exactly what the format will be. I'm all in favor of the Lincoln Douglas, where there's no moderator, so we basically put a camera on them and decide them. But I think that the debates will be, the best chance for the voters to make a decision. Those undecided. I mean, a lot of people, they've dug their heels in. There are people that won't change their mind no matter what about Clinton or Trump. But I think that's where the undecideds will be, when they can see them side by side.
Certainly. It'll be definitely must-see TV.
Do you expect bad behavior?
What do you mean by bad?
Well, you know what I mean. Do you expect do you expect that these two candidates, when they get up on the stage, they're going to be slinging insults at each other and taking the bait from each other, or do you expect them to be talking about policy and telling them what direction they think they're going to take the country if elected?
It'll probably follow the tone of the campaign so far. It's certainly going to be personal attacks with squeezing in policy.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, too, where Donald Trump has been stirring for this fight to a certain extent. I mean, he understands that both of them are in the mud right now when it comes to their unfavorable ratings. And right now, it's a kind of a contest of who is driving the other a little bit lower. And he's been stirring for this fight to get on the debate stage with them. And we've, heard about maybe Donald Trump doesn't want to actually have these sorts of debates. Well, if the polls hold, if he's struggling a little bit as we get closer to October, he's going to want to have that opportunity to mix it up out in the debate stage.
All right, the swing states, those are the all-important states. Ohio is so close. And then now you've got Senate candidate Strickland making that comment about Justice Scalia. Well, this is a Fox News alert. New York Police Department giving a news conference about the man just arrested climbing Trump Tower. Let's listen.
Hold on. Is everybody good? Is everybody up? Yep. All right, Chief. Good evening, everybody. I'm Chief William Morris. I'm the Chief of Manhattan South. Just going to give you some preliminary information about what we have at this point regarding this incident today. At about 3:30 this afternoon, we received a 911 call for a male who was scaling the outside glass here at Trump Towers. The address here is 725 Fifth Avenue. Responding units from Midtown North came, and they observed a male on the outside of the atrium, which is approximately the 4th floor of this location. The responding units secured the interior of the Trump Towers, working with private security here, then also utilizing additional resources from patrol and also the Strategic Response Group and the Critical Response Command, and also including the Traffic Management Center. We extended our perimeter beyond the building to the outside area in this vicinity. Once we had stabilized that perimeter, we requested the fire department and the emergency service unit. The emergency service unit, under the command of Chief Giordano, responded to the scene, took tactical control of the situation, and commenced operations.
Yeah, upon responding to the job, we got it as a jumper. Somebody attempted to jump from the building. Service personnel responded. Our first contact was on the 5th floor of the atrium. We were able to establish break a vent window and establish some type of dialogue. We then secured 3 jumper airbags and numerous amount of equipment for a high-angle rescue job. The individual continued to ascend and go vertical and horizontal at different times, at which time what we tried to do is try to isolate and contain him to a point where we would give us a tactical advantage to take him into custody. We wanted to proceed slow. We didn't want the individual to fall. So we wanted to do it in the most safe manner as possible. We got to a point where we came up with a very good plan with the emergency service personnel that were on the scene. We wanted to remove some of the glass and, again, try to prevent him from ascending any further up. We had some assistance from some glaciers that were on the scene, that we brought to the scene. They were very instrumental in assisting us in removing the panes of glass, also utilizing a scaffolding and lowering some of ESU personnel on the side of the building all the way from the 55th floor down, to isolate him to a point where he no longer had the advantage of ascending. Once we removed the panes of glass and he got to a point where his only way to ascend was to go pretty much through a probably 2 feet pane of glass between the scaffolding and the officers that were at the window on the 21st floor. We pretty much advised him that putting his suction cups and all weight on that window would possibly cause it to crack. Again, that information, the glaciers was very influential in providing that information to us. And then once he proceeded to pretty much ignore that and he tried to ascend, Detective Williams and Detective Walker found they were in the opportune moment to tactically take advantage of that opportunity and bring that individual into safety through the window. All right, Lieutenant Lasitra was the ranking supervisor at the location, as well as Inspector Galvin and Inspector Finnegan, who were actually coordinating with me on the 21st floor. So again, we had a real good plan between ground operations and tactical operations on the level where the individual was climbing to take that person into custody and in a safe and most efficient manner as possible. And this, go ahead.
Chief Bill Aubrey, Chief of Manhattan South Detectives. This individual is a 20-year-old individual from Virginia. He came up here yesterday. He's staying at a local hotel. What he explained to us is that he wanted a personal meeting with Mr. Trump, and he posted a YouTube video on Tuesday. That YouTube video explains that he's an independent researcher, and he wanted to meet with him, and that's the reason why he was climbing this building. At no time did he express that he wanted to hurt anybody. His sole intention was to meet with Mr. Trump. It took 3 hours to get him in custody, and upon getting him in custody, he explained the same thing, that he wanted Mr. Trump's attention, and he wanted a meeting with him.
Okay, any questions? We'll take some questions. What was in the backpack?
In the backpack were what we got from him were the 5 suction cups. We have identification that we recovered from him. There's various identifications. He was explaining that he previously went by one name and now he goes by a different name. We're researching that. We're looking into that. It's part of the investigation.
Where was he taken?
What's that?
Where was he taken?
He's taken to Bellevue Hospital. He's going to be psychologically evaluated, and he's going to be placed under arrest. We're working with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office to determine the appropriate charges.
Chief Aubrey, does it appear that... Chief, you want to talk about where he's...
I'm sorry, what?
I mean, it appears like he knew what he was doing.
Yes.
There to climb, so many floors. Any background of him as a climber?
We're looking into that. The suction cups could have gotten, he could have gotten them from any mountain climbing type facility or store. So that's part of the investigation. We're going to look into all of that.
Where was the Secret Service during all of this?
During the course of the operation, we were in a consultation with the Secret Service throughout it.
With the building so secure with Secret Service and NYPD, how did the guy even get close to being able to climb up?
That matter's under investigation at this point.
Did he put up a fight where it was being swung in? We talked to the detectives. Good. Yeah, we'll get the rescuing officers soon.
As I said before, we were in consultation with the Secret Service throughout this operation. I would refer that question to the Secret Service.
Can we talk some about the moment that we brought him in, what you were waiting for, the situation you were waiting for, and how it presented itself? All right, well, Chief Giordano can speak speak about when the decision was made, and then he'll have the two officers.
That'd be great.
Come forward.
Well, again, you know, the basic of his conversation that was said was he wanted to climb to the top so that he could talk to Mr. Trump. That was the basis of most of his conversation. But again, what we wanted to do was get to a point where we would have the advantage, again, to be in close enough proximity to safely secure him and take him into custody without endangering any of the officers, and again, endangering even his life. So when he got to the point, like I said, when he was on that painted window, where if he would have put all his weight, there was a possibility it could have cracked. All right. Chris Williams and Dave Walker, again, felt that was an opportune moment, all right, for them to make that rescue and bring him into the location.
Guys, could you talk about that moment, what you were waiting for, or what you were looking for, and how you took advantage of it?
I was waiting for the perfect time to present itself when I felt it was safe for him and myself and my crew, so that when that time came, I did talk to my crew, let them know, listen, he's at a level where I am able to grab him safely and bring him in. When it presented itself, I reached out, I took hold of his hand, and I said, sir, you need to come with me. And I brought him inside with the help of my partner, and we placed him in custody and handed him over to EMS.
Sorry, did he resist a little bit? Did he resist when trying to bring him in? There seemed to be a little bit of a scuffle there.
He thought about it.
What did he say when he was
He didn't have much to say at that point.
What happened inside the building? Was there a scuffle? Did you have to wrestle on the ground, anything like that? Or did he go peacefully?
No, sir. He went peacefully.
Can you talk about the conversations you had with him as he was climbing up? What were you saying to him? What was he saying back to you? You saw some moments when you were lowering the hook down and you were having some talks. What were those conversations?
I was lowering the safety line to him to explain to him he should lock himself in, God forbid something happened. He was climbing for a while, and I could see that he was getting tired. And I said, if you lock this in, at least if you get tired, we will have you, and you won't fall. And he refused to take the line. His thing was he wanted to go talk to Trump.
Who made the decision to cut the glass that ended up falling out off the building?
My supervisor.
So did you guys realize that he was right below you when that glass was cut? Because it seemed to almost fall right on top of him.
No, it was to the side of him. We take all precautions for everyone's safety.
All right, thank you, folks. When we made the decision, we initially made a decision. We actually took some glass, but he was in a position where it wasn't going to endanger him because he was off to the side. Once he swung over to the other side, again, a plan was developed upstairs that we couldn't do that anymore. So again, the concept was to remove the window panes, and again, this would provide safety for not only him but also the officers and anybody below that were in rescue operations. So that decision was subsequently made based upon where he was and our ability now to contain him and isolate him to that location.
Thank you, Chief. Thanks all.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, we now know that the man that was climbing Trump Tower is a 20-year-old from Virginia. He came into the city yesterday, booked a hotel with the sole intention of coming here to meet Mr. Trump. He also posted a YouTube video, the NYPD confirming with me that the YouTube video that's out there, it's about a minute long. He put up a manifesto up on August 9th, which was yesterday, in which he said he was an independent researcher. He wanted to meet with Mr. Trump, and at the end of that video, he said he encouraged people to vote for Mr. Trump. We now know the NYPD talking to us that he is now at Bellevue Hospital. It appears that he was just really exhausted while he was climbing. The police took us step-by-step as to how they did it. They made sure that they cornered him and brought him in safely. He's expected to be okay, but of course the Secret Service and all of that will be following the investigation. But again, a 20-year-old from Virginia who simply wanted to do this to get Trump's attention to meet with him. We'll get more, and we'll bring it to you as we get it, Greta.
Brian, thanks. And I tip my hat to the first responders in New York. They did this without incident to anyone. Congratulations, NYPD and the others. Brian, thanks. And new email headaches for Secretary Hillary Clinton, a possible pay-for-play scheme. Newly released emails from her time as Secretary of State raised questions about the State Department's relationship with the Clinton Foundation and wealthy donors. Too cozy? Fox News correspondent Rich Edson is live at the State Department. Rich?
Now, good evening, Greta. And former Clinton political donors and those who used to work for the Clinton Global Initiative and Clinton Foundation asking for favors of the State Department while Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was in charge here, asking for favors like setting up different meetings with ambassadors or perhaps a job meeting. This one is from Doug Band. He's a longtime advisor to former President Bill Clinton. He once led the Clinton Global Initiative, and in 2009 he emailed Cheryl Mills and Huma Abedin, both top aides to then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. He forwards an email from an associate entitled Favor. The associate was looking for a job. Band instructs Abedin and Mills that the matter was, quote, important and need to be taken care of. Abedin responds almost immediately that we have all had him on our radar. What we've gotten now from the Clinton campaign in response to all of this is that, quote, neither of these emails involve the Secretary of State or relate to the foundation's work. They are communications between her aides and the president's personal aide. And indeed, the recommendation was one for the secretary's former staffers who were not employed by the foundation. These emails are the result of a lawsuit filed by Judicial Watch, that's a conservative watchdog group, and a Freedom of Information Act request. Back to you, Greta.
Rich, thanks. Now here to respond, former presidential candidate and Trump supporter, businessman Herman Cain. Good evening, sir. And now we have more emails. This were not the ones surrendered by Secretary Clinton, but were obtained pursuant to a deposition or FOIA request by Judicial Watch. Your thought?
First of all, hats off to Judicial Watch for continuing to push this. I'm not on the board of Judicial Watch, but I wish everybody watching this program would go to their website and support Judicial Watch, because if it were not for them, these would not have been out in the public. Now, the main point is this confirms that there was a direct connection between the State Department and people who wanted favors from the State Department. The fact that they said it wasn't directly with Hillary Clinton, the last time I checked, if the people work for you, you're responsible for their actions. That dog won't hunt, Greta. It simply won't hunt. It
well,
also
I don't like the fact that that these emails weren't turned over. They know that they keep, it's like pulling teeth.
It's like pulling teeth because they're trying to hold back as much as they can because they want to drag this out for as long as they can. These emails confirm some of the things that people have been talking about, and that is Hillary Clinton lied. She held back information, and secondly, now it confirms that she lied about the lies. This is what's coming out.